Oh, hello everybody, whoever's there. Hopefully we've got a few people coming on, I think. So it is just after 10, and man, it is so miserable where I am in Toronto. It's nasty. Everything is flooding, everything is gray. I have to have like the lights on. It's so nasty. So I'm hoping that it's better where you guys are. Okay, so today what I'm going to talk about is strategies to survive your first year of your staging business. Now, I know that you're going to survive it anyway, so it's not really a case of whether you survive it. It's just that, some tips to help you get there, because I know that that first year business can be quite stressful, and I get a lot of comments from stagers who are worried in that first year, and how do you find that client, and which is why I've done a couple of Facebook Lives about finding that ideal client, understanding what that is, those different kinds of strategies that you can use to get there. Hi, Nancy. So that's really that kind of sort of stressful feeling happens to a lot of stagers. Hi, Anna. And it doesn't necessarily happen to just stagers in their first year of business. It just happens that the further along you are, you're just a little bit more experienced and a little bit more comfortable with the feeling of feeling stressed and like where that's going to lead you, and knowing, I think in the end, that being comfortable with the fact that something is actually going to happen. Hi, Juliana. So that first year can be stressful. Absolutely. I can remember my first year in business. I was fortunate because I got into a really good program with like an employment program with my province and my local government. And that helped me to really kind of get my footing. But even so, for me, and everybody is different and they have their own sort of like thing that helps them along. But for me, having a safety net is not actually ideal for me. I am much, much better if I'm just thrown out there and it's like, fight for survival, sink or swim kind of thing. Because, and I'll tell you that pretty much I might sink, but I'm going to float back up to the top, I hope. And so that's kind of like the attitude that I go with. But like you can have that overarching attitude, and that approach to life. But if when it's stressful and you're not getting the work and you're not getting paid and you have a business that you have expectations from, it's very stressful. And it kind of permeates your success. It permeates like all your activities that are going to help you to be successful. So you're constantly worrying, which is not helpful really in the long run at all. So some of the strategies I'm going to talk about today, they're kind of like bigger picture things. And they're things that I hope just kind of like remind you that it's not unusual at all in your first year of business, even your first 18 months or 2 years of business, to be looking for consistency and to be wondering where it's coming from and to be doubting yourself. That is just a natural part of who we are as humans to do that. One of the things that often comes up, not really I don't hear so much in stagers, but I think it's still there. We just don't talk about it. But in new business owners, for sure, is this idea of the imposter syndrome, because it's like, well, who says I'm qualified to do this? Who is this who is this designation, or to say that I'm qualified to do this? And so there's this feeling of, am I really qualified? Is someone going to find out I've never done this before? Especially when it's your first job that you're doing, or first few jobs. And I can remember going to my very first consultation. Some of you probably heard this, but sweating buckets, just totally in a panic. I think the poor man that I was seeing, I will say I told them everything. And the poor man at the end of the consultation, he and his wife were there. And this was before I was doing a walk and talk. So I was walking around taking copious notes, completely filling like my report for them. And then I sat down and I told them it all. And I was, trying to help them prioritize, but it was, they just looked like whoa, because I couldn't stop talking. So I overdid it, and I do have a tendency to talk too much. So I'm on the other end of the scale, and that's not so good either when you talk too much and you're telling your client everything. They want to be reassured, right? And I don't know that I was so reassuring. I just made it worse for them. But anyway, so that was my first consultation. But I can remember just sweating buckets. And did I have everything with me? What did I say? Was it the right thing? Who am I to know? Like, what do I know about selling houses? And so it was. The whole imposter syndrome really does influence you, I think, when you're starting a business of any kind. And especially if anyone ever questions, just one person questions or doubts your skill set, or that this is a viable business or anything like that. And it can throw you off the edge. And the problem with that is you can have like 10 people over here saying, you are amazing, you're so good, like paying you for work. And then you have like one little person make one little doubt, and that's what like permeates your head. And that's always very unfortunate, I find. But it really does happen. So one of the very first things I think you need to do when you're starting your business is to surround yourself by supportive people. And that doesn't mean that you exclude the people who aren't supportive, or because a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, I find that they disguise their support, their negative support, with I love you, but I want you to think about this, or are you sure? And that's not the supportive people that we want. We know those people love us, and they can be over here and they can love us all they want, but we need the people who are going to go rah, 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 and who are going to cheer you on and not doubt you, but they're going to encourage you. And I know that those people who think that, those doubters who are on the sidelines think that they're helping, but they're really not helping. You don't need that. You already have enough doubt in your own self because you're working so hard at your business, and you're just on the precipice if someone doubts you to be doubtful of yourself. So you want to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are going to support you. They don't even have to love you. They just need to support you. And there's a few resources I think I have found that have really been very helpful for that. I just got to tell you, I do these at 10 o'clock on Friday, and it's my garbage day. And every time I hear the big trucks going by as we do this. So just so you know, that's part of the routine, because here it comes. So basically, you want to have that group of people around you who just really support you, really encourage you, and really believe in you. And they don't always have to be physical people, because like I have one girlfriend who started her photography business at the same time I did. And as I started my staging business, she has had a few hiccups in the road along that way. And I have had my sort of changes in direction and things like that. But we've known each other for years. But when we get together and we do this like semi-regularly, and we talk about our businesses, and we are incredibly supportive of each other. And I know if I need to chat with her, if I have her on speed dial and I call her, she knows like exactly the right things to say to me. And it's not doubting me. It's like, giving me some other opportunities or other ideas, or she has the right things to say. And those are the people you need. The other kind of resources that you can find, so you want those people on speed dial, by the way. The other people that you can really find that are really helpful and supportive and surround yourself with are things just like Facebook groups. Like this group, when people are supportive, they have positive words, they can share successes with you, and they can also share failures, but what they learned from those, and then sharing that with you as well. So those groups become very important. So when I actually find when I have a particular stress about something, if I go to one of my groups that I'm part of, that I'm a member in, and I ask the question, I get amazing feedback because everybody's in the same boat and they all get it, right? And so that's what you need. You need people who get it. Another way of finding those supportive people, there goes the truck. Another way of getting those supportive people are actually by looking within your network, or not within your network, but within your geographical area for networking as well. So what I have found is that once you start your own business, you are blown away by the number of people that are actually self-employed. There are tons of people that are self-employed. And But it's a whole new world as you start your business. So I think one of the really valuable things is to start networking with those groups. So go out to those groups once a month or whenever those meetings are, or once every 2 months, and make a point of being in a group of people who get it, who understand about being self-employed, who understand about the risks you take and the challenges of cash flow in the beginning, and the decisions that go along with that, the balance of family, and they get that. And there's no judgment there. In fact, there's experience that they share. And I think that's really, hi Denise, and I think that's also really important. So just surround yourself with your friends and family who are supportive, who love you. Surround yourself and put yourself into Facebook groups or other sort of networking groups. Even they're virtual that can be supportive. Also, surround yourself and physically go to networking groups that are full of people who are entrepreneurs, and then also go to RESA, to the Real Estate Staging Association, to their chapters, if you have a chapter in your area as well, because they're also going to be supportive, because not only are they new business owners or business owners, but they're also staging business owners, so they get that as well. I'm just going to give you an example, and I may have mentioned this before. I am part of a networking group in Toronto, and I believe that you can join this from anywhere, and their goal is, and I think they're starting to do this, to put some training webinars and information online, so that their members are not just limited to the Toronto area. But it's actually a Facebook group. It's called Mamas and Co. And I happened to join very early on because one of my colleagues, Julio, was a member, and Karen Letts, who are both stagers, and they belong to this group. It has now grown to a really nice handful of people who are incredibly supportive, incredibly encouraging. Even if I'm not actually participating and saying anything, there is so much camaraderie, and it's wonderful, wonderful to see. Like, there's nobody negative in the group. Everybody encourages each other. So if you have kids and you're a new entrepreneur and you are thinking about because that's another thing that you need support in is understanding that it is okay for your kids to be in daycare till 6 o'clock at night, and that's how I started with my kids. It is okay that your kids don't come home for lunch, even though they're 500 yards away from your office, because I do that too. So those things are really good. The group, Denise, is called Mamas and Co, and it's a Facebook group, but the you pay a fee, an annual fee. I think it's like $45 or something, but you get access to all their live webinars and all their resources as well, which they're a growing network for sure. They're in their early phase and early stages, but they're such a really great supportive group and really interesting businesses that I never would have imagined that people would have a business about. But and also what's also really valuable about it is it's a great opportunity to pay it forward. So you've been in business a few months or a year or 2 years, and now you can actually pay your experience forward and help those people who are coming up behind you, not only as stagers, but in their own businesses, because really those stresses apply to all businesses across the board, right? So that's the one thing about surrounding yourself by the right people, getting rid of those mind monkeys, throwing them to the curb, and just being really selectful about who you talk about your business with. And my brother-in-law is one of those people who I had to defriend him from Facebook because he always had something negative to say, and all it did was get in my head and screw me around. And it was just not. He thought, he still thinks staging is selling snake oil. So he's just not a fan of it. So why even go there? Why ask him? Why tell him anything? So that, and it sometimes it gets that specific that you have to do that. The second thing is about fear and procrastination, and changing that mindset so that, as you're starting a new business and it's completely something that's new to you, that you don't allow that fear to get in the way. So fear is the false evidence appearing real. And there's some things that come into that, that get in your way, like with fear, kind of like what we're talking about with mind monkeys. I mean, we are so susceptible to fear. We would rather be fearful than happy with our progress, shockingly so. And apparently our brains are hardwired to actually do that, to go for the negative. And I gather it's something to do all the way back to cavemen, about for fighting for survival. So that's great, the kudos, but I'm fighting for survival right now. So that's where that whole fear thing comes in. And procrastination is like the biggest form of fear, because and perfection is the biggest definition of procrastination. So I always think that it's interesting when we talk about well, I'm a perfectionist. Well, being and using that as an excuse, because being a perfectionist is really the biggest form of procrastination. My husband is a perfectionist, which I had not realized for many years, and now he'll say, oh yeah, of course I am. If I can't do it right, I don't do it at all. And biggest excuse or biggest form of procrastination. So you want to get those things. You need to acknowledge those things that you know cause you fear, that you know trigger procrastination in you, and get them out of your way. Sort of just make sure that you're on top of that. That like I know that January could be a real trigger for me when I was in my staging business. When I was staging a lot, because it was never a really great cash flow month, and I was never ever got myself prepared for it. And every January I'd be like, oh yeah, because the fear, especially after Christmas and holidays, and the fear of cash flow really overcame me. And one year it got so bad that I promised myself I would never do it again. So I put things in place to make sure that never happened again. I planned my business properly from like October on, so that I had enough cash flow in January. I started offering services and selling programs and doing projects that I knew would generate me cash in January. So that's just an example of like planning ahead to not let those things that you know get in your way. And that also comes from shifting your mindset of, knowing that there's always something coming, there's always business. And the real way you can do that is when you know, hi Lori, when you know that, I forgot what I was going to say. When you know that you have put things in place to help you move that forward. And so you're not just waiting for something to happen. And that kind of leads to another strategy, which is making sure that you're being proactive and not reactive. And there's a few things I can tell you to do to help you to do that. Because when you are proactive, you stop worrying about the things that aren't happening, because you're concentrating on the things that are going to happen. And you have a plan of like making sure that things are going to happen. You're setting the stage for that. And that's what also really helps you to avoid procrastination and fear, because you know that you've put things in place to help you avoid the things that you know that will set fear in you, and two, that you are you're making yourself proactive so that you are focusing on the future and what's happening, and not necessarily what you're waiting for right now. Because when you're waiting all the time, that's all worry and fear, and it's really easy. And I can say this from experience. It's really easy to decide, well, I'm not going to do that because it's not going to make me money for 6 weeks, or, and just ignore that as a possibility. And instead, you just need to be proactive. And part of the ways there's some things that you can do as a staging business to be proactive. And I think hi Tamara, I think as a stager, one of the challenges, or a couple of the challenges are actually that one of the challenges though is that you are waiting for, when you get busy, you're so busy that you don't actually have time to be looking for new business. And I think we tend to not sit back, because I don't think we're sitting back, but we tend to wait for people to come to business with us, because when they come, it's like hurry up and go. And so when someone calls on a Monday morning, so you go to bed on Sunday night, you have no jobs, you wake up on Monday morning, you have no jobs, and by Monday lunchtime or Tuesday morning, you're booked for the week. That can cause you a lot of stress. But if you are instead being proactive and so that you know that your week is full of jobs and that you have full of things to do, and even if you don't have work that week, but you know that everything that you do is going to get you work, is working towards getting you work, then you're in a much better position, because you're not like stressing and in the same kind of way, because you're, again, being proactive and not reactive. So you're not waiting for a realtor to call you, you're calling the realtor, or you're calling the seller and following up, or you're going to a networking event and you're meeting new agents. And those are the sorts of things that you really want to make sure that you have in your mindset, and that are part of your daily routine with your business. Now, one of the things that will help you to really do that is if you think about a couple of things. First one is that in your first year of business, now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but in the first year of your business, one of the things that you have to be really focused on is about finding new paying clients. And that is what's going to make you a successful business, is that you have paying clients who are going to pay you for work, hire you for work, and keep doing that. So I often will tell new stagers to take, good morning, Lorraine. I would also tell stagers to take their stager hat off more often and put it down and put your networking and your finding clients hat on, and especially in your first year, and realize that the jobs will come, but you have to get out there and put your name out there. I mean, I totally was guilty of sitting at my desk and thinking, they'll all come, they'll all know I'm here, and they'll be flowing into my office in my house. Well, of course they're not, because they don't even know you exist. And when you think about the fact that by like a client needs to see you, or a customer needs to see or be touched by you, and sort of sometimes the stats will say up to 18 times, but at least 11 to 14 times they need to have some sort of contact or relationship with you in order for them to actually ever purchase from you. So that we need to always keep that in mind. So networking becomes like really critical, and planning ahead becomes really critical. So one of the things, and that also includes like focusing on finding those paying clients. So if you think about finding paying clients by going to networking events, and these can be sort of the same networking events that you're going to meet other entrepreneurs, because those entrepreneurs are often your biggest advocates. But as those entrepreneurs, they often include realtors and contractors and builders, people who are going to be able to find you more work, that will work on your behalf to actually sell your value. So when you go to a networking event, you want to be prepared to talk about that, but you also want to plan the right events to go to. And they should be, I usually recommend that, especially in the beginning of your business, that you have at least one or two events where try to do one event every week where you're meeting people. And that could be that you are in what was I going to say? Sorry, I saw Holly's message there that it keeps freezing. I'm not quite sure why that is. It might be the weather, and kind of, I think it's a bit disruptive today. I know I had a couple of flashes earlier that it was pretty crazy. But anyway, so hi, Melody. So if you are, where was I? What was I talking about? So finding, like going to networking events. So if you can plan to go to a regular networking event, like I'll give you an example of where I am that just pops into my head. One is that there's a group in where I am that is all women that meets, and it's the Heart of Networking, I think it's called, and it's women that meet once a month, and they have a networking event. They usually have a really appropriate speaker, and they have a lunch, and they get to meet. They sit at a table with new people, and they introduce, and they get to meet each other, and they're all business owners. Every community has those. If you're new to being an entrepreneur, this is something that we never would know about until we are an entrepreneur. But start searching and paying attention to those. Look at meetups. Go to meetup.com and look at what things are happening in your area that you can actually get out and meet people at. And so those are typically going to be entrepreneurs. Also go to things like if you join BNI or any of the sort of networking programs like Business Networking International, and there's a few different ones, and a lot of communities have their own. Go to your local business associations and your municipal chamber of commerce and things like that when they have meetings, and they often have events for entrepreneurs, and you will start to meet a lot of people who are very supportive of what you do because they're in the same boat, and they will help to sell your value as well. And that's a big deal with Business Networking International. That's a big thing that they do. In fact, that's how I met Melody. Well, Melody and I actually were training together years ago, but we also met at BNI as well. We sort of reconnected at BNI, and there's a real effort to like support each other. When people know that you are making an effort and that you will support them, they'll do the same for you. So those are sort of more general networking, but getting out there and talking about your business is as important as anything. Being able to comfortably talk about what you do is a big deal. And then look for, let's say you're at an event and you're meeting real estate agents, and at because BNI actually is a good one because they have regular events where I've forgotten what they're called, but they get you to, you bring in a whole bunch more new people that perhaps might be interested. And if you go to those and you don't even join the BNI period, but you go to their bigger networking events, there's often several agents at those. And really great way to introduce yourself. We've talked before about going to brokerages and introducing yourself at a brokerage, asking if you can do a lunch and learn, seeing if you can be preferred vendor, and so you have access to all that information, or just finding out who the realtors are you want to work with and approaching them. But if every week, especially in the beginning of your business, you can plan to have at least 1, 2, or 3 coffee meetings with those people, you spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes with them, you get to know each other, and you find out how you can help them, because remember, it's a fact-finding mission for you, but you're creating a relationship again. So all that effort in networking, that's where when we talk about focusing on being proactive, not reactive, putting your staging hat down for a little bit and recognizing that first year, it's all about finding the right clients and the people that you want to work with. And you definitely have business come up from that. Absolutely business comes up from those. And you will continue to you will start staging, and the tides will shift a little bit because you've got more staging from those people that you met. But you have to meet enough people. I kind of look at it like dating. You have to meet enough people and date enough in order to find that one that's perfect and ideal. And it's the same kind of thing when you're looking for realtors that you want to work with. You're going to keep taking them out for coffee. You keep nurturing that relationship, and that is a lot of the first year. So this is why I say don't get your knickers in a knot about how much work you've got and that you haven't got something on your calendar this week, and really focus on the fact that you're building your business and you're building your relationships, and you're strengthening those relationships so that those people are the ones that when they have staging jobs or clients that they want you to see, they can't imagine going to anybody else but you because they've created that relationship with you. So it's a really important investment in your business, and it's one not to take lightly, and it's very important in the beginning of any business, but I find in a staging business really critical. And because one of our drawbacks is that we love to decorate and we love to work in homes, and the whole our training is about going in and marketing a home. And that's what we want to do. But really in the first year, we have to find the people who are going to hire us to do that. And that is really our biggest focus. So every week, because that's what you're going to do, you want to make sure that you have an action plan. So for every week, this is what I have scheduled and this is what I'm going to do. And if you get jobs in the mix of that, fantastic. But one thing I would warn you against is make sure that you block your networking time. Like when you have an appointment with a realtor, savor that appointment with that realtor. If you have a networking event, make sure that is really protected. And if you get a staging job, fantastic, but you're busy at that time, that you can't book at that time. You have to book it another time, just like anybody else would do. You don't need to be, that doesn't sound like you don't need to be desperate and taking the job because you need the job. You need to just say that, I have an appointment available, staging, I can do a booking on Wednesday. And because that's kind of one of the challenges that happens is you get busy and you ignore those appointments those networking appointments and those ones where you continue to build your relationship, and that you continue to look for more relationships. So, and that's when you fall in the trap of being reactive and not proactive. So you really, really want to be proactive, because part of that being proactive is that you're meeting with those agents, but you're also telling those agents what it is exactly that you want from them. You know that I shouldn't say what you want from them, but you know what you personally want in your relationships with your realtors, because you've defined, I hope, what your ideal client is. And so you're really targeting who you're going after. So you have to be committed to making sure those relationships continue. And so that when you look back at the end of the year, you've started to build those 6 to 10 solid relationships with realtors who are going to give you the bulk of your business every year. And that takes effort and it takes commitment, and you don't want to renege on that commitment. So be fair to your business and keep those in your calendar and do not cancel them. They don't get bumped because you got a paying client. And another approach, and I don't know if any of you guys know Tara Seville, but no, Tara does occasionally see her name come up on these. So Tara Seville was somebody, and I totally advise you guys to do this as well. Tara Seville, actually, this is probably one of the best things you could do. Tara Seville, when I first started my business, I remember when I was doing my research, she was like my competition. And she was somebody who had been in the business for a while. It was, staging was fairly new. She was like a very young when she started. She was very driven, very determined, and she's been very successful in my area. And she has quite a market that very loyal realtors who work with her and who are very committed to her. And that's sorry, I forgot how I met her. So I took some decorating classes when I was starting my business to sort of augment what I was doing, and so that I felt, that I had a better, stronger background. And in the classroom, this girl came in late and she sat beside me. And who would it be but Tara Seville, who I'd never actually met. I just knew she was my competition. And we didn't stop talking for the whole semester. She shared everything with me. Everything. I don't know if she knew, but like my head was like this little mental computer, and I was just like in my head because I just sucked it up. So when you find someone who you can just suck that information up from, who will share with you, oh my goodness, they are like gold. So again, this is why like meeting people through RISA is really good. Because when you find someone who actually is willing to share all that information, it's amazing. It's just such a wealth of information and resources. And she took me to actually learn how to do wholesale buying. She taught me all about pricing in what works in pricing, because when you're in the classroom, sometimes it's a little bit, you learn how to price, but what does that really mean? Because you don't actually have a job and you can't really equate it to anything, right? So she was extremely helpful to me. And so find someone who can be that person that really can be your mentor in the business as well. And you know what? You want to be careful and respectful because they are giving you a lot of like really important information. But it shaped my business for me. And I never have been her competition, even though we're in the same area. And I always say this because it doesn't really matter. You all offer something different. And it's the agent that's going to hire you, and they're hiring you not just because you're a stager. They're hiring you because you were a right fit for them. And so anyway, I digress. But that is a really important piece to do if you can, is to align yourself or find someone who really will happily talk to you about the business. And it doesn't actually have to be somebody, yes, exactly, Ellen, pay it forward. I'm a huge, massive believer in pay it forward, or I wouldn't actually be here doing this. And I so encourage the industry to do that, because that's what will make, that's what makes the industry, will make the industry so great and have such a presence, because we continue to do that. So I really encourage you to do that, to do it for stagers who are coming up behind you. But for sure, you want to be respectful, but be appreciative, but if you can find someone. And as I said, it doesn't have to be physically, it can be online, it can be virtually, like a Skype. And like, I have people that I have relationships with who are around the world, and they don't always have to be exactly about staging, but this industry is the same pretty much everywhere. There's the nuances, but that's when I teach it. It's like, it doesn't matter where you are. The principles of staging are the same. People want to sell for the most amount of money, and that people want to buy for the least. And, so that's what we do. Anyway, so that would be a big one, is to have someone. I didn't have that on my list, but that would be a big one. Oh, thanks, Virginia. So what else? So that was kind of a big overriding one, actually, a big, very important one. So have your action plan, and have in that action plan who you're going to network with that week, and those things that just do not move off your calendar, because in that first year, you must have those things in place. You must get off your chair and go and be out there. And that kind of leads me to another thing, is that if you guys follow Tony Robbins at all, which I know many of you do, or at least pay attention to what he says, one of the things that Tony Robbins talks about is the wannapreneur. And I don't know if you've heard that term before, but the wannapreneur is somebody who they start their business, and they're in business now because they have a business card and a website. And that wannapreneur often just stops there, and they feel like they've done their marketing, they've done their due diligence, and they're entrepreneur. And then they stress and complain about the fact that they haven't got business. And so my advice to you is to not get yourself sucked in to not doing any business, or not talking about your business, or not marketing your business, or selling yourself until you have a business card and a website. Don't do that, because and I'm a communications person, marketing person. Well, not really so much marketing, but communications person. And I will tell you that you do not have to have your logo all completed and your branding all done and your website all finished. What you need to do is have paying clients. That is your absolute ultimate focus for your first year of business. Hi, Colleen, is to have paying clients, and that having a business card and having a website isn't going to get you those. It's going to help you to sell your value and validate who you are for sure. And your business card is only a way of how to contact you. So my advice to you in the very beginning is because being that person, I spent from September probably through to mid-November working on my website and working on my business card and changing my logo because I thought I could create it myself. Doing all that work, writing the content, thinking that's what I had to do. And then I realized that I know what I was going to tell you. So in my first year of business, just as a background, when I took this business program, I was accepted into this government program. I had employment insurance for the entire year that I was starting my business. That was not a great backup for me. I did not need that. I would have been far smarter I loved what I learned. I had like humongous, massive support from the program, but being paid was not really such a great thing because it was a false sense of security. And so I spent all this time creating like my marketing, and a lot of people will tell you to do that. But the problem is a lot of us will do that at the expense of finding paying clients. And if you're sitting back and you're writing your content or you're, working on a brochure and you don't want to talk to a realtor till you have a brochure, the problem is that you don't allow yourself to actually meet anybody who could actually pay you. Yes, I would say that too, Ellen. Use social media as much as you can to help promote you. They're not always looking. Your brand can be in your words. Your brands can be in the photos that you use. Your brand can be in the fact that you're there all the time. So your brand is not just about like what your logo looks like when you're doing this. And so, but one of the things that I realized after the fact, because I hit mid-November and I was suddenly like, holy crap. Well, I could use another word, but holy crap. My EI is going to run out. My employment insurance is going to run out in end of December. And what am I going to do? And I've done nothing to find a paying client. And I've been doing this for a year. And I've had a few jobs and definitely working. But I didn't make a living at this. And I have no clients that I can say are going to be repeat clients for me. So it occurred to me then, and I had to do it actually, was that I had to stop frigging around with this stuff and stop worrying about whether the words were right or and all that sort of thing. I needed to get out there and meet people who were going to hire me. They needed to see me. They needed to meet me. I'm the brand. They needed to meet me. And so I started to do that. And I also realized that, we're fortunate with technology. It's so easy to create a business card. Like, I don't think I have one here. I had a very old one. I don't think I have one. It's so easy to create a business card and have it done in about half an hour, honestly. Done in half an hour. If you go to Vistaprint or Moo or whatever those things are, and you can have your business card in 24 hours or 48 hours. And so if someone called you and said, you're better to work on the fly. So, and I know that's not how we all like to work, but it doesn't help you to be so prepared that you stop yourself from finding the clients. If someone called and said, I'd love to meet you and talk about what you do, then I would have to work like crazy and forget the business card. I need to have a really quick brochure, but it could be here, I'm just going to show you this really quickly. It could have been like this, just an 8.5 by 11 with some information and a couple of pictures. They just need to know that you're real, and you need to be able to talk about your business. And that's what really, yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's what you need in order to get business. Is you need to be out there talking to people, and you sell your value. When people go to your website, it's because they need to validate you. Most realtors, if you ask them, they want to hear about you through other realtors or other sellers or other their contacts. They want referrals for you. They don't necessarily want to have to go looking for you on a website. And if they go looking for you on a website, they're often looking based on money, like on cost. And you want them to hire you and to look for you based on your talent and your expertise. So don't, here's my caveat. So don't spend a whole lot of time in that first year focusing on your business card and your website and your brochure. There are ways to do it really quickly. As I said, your business card can be like, my original business card was Vistaprint. And it was, I think I did it in red, which like a rusty red, which is what you see a lot of my stuff in. Rusty red color. I used white text. I made my name in a thicker font, and I put underneath it that at the time I was a CSP, I was a certified staging professional, and here's my contact information. There was no logo, there was nothing, but the brand was a little bit because it had my color in it. And don't ever do it on white. You don't ever do it on white. If you're going to do that with just text, don't do it on white. Use the color to help you create a brand. And it was done. And all I needed was my name and my address. They just need your contact information. And then when you get to the website, yes, I would totally agree, Anna. Talking is the hardest part. And I'll give you some advice about that, because I am not good at that either, really. Or I shouldn't say I'm not good on it without having a plan or a strategy. So with your website, now, I'm not saying that this is what you use indefinitely and you stick to this, but in order to get out there, don't let not having these things stop you. I haven't had a website for staging in almost 2 years, and I don't stage a lot now, but I was staging a lot when I stopped using my website because I was infected with something and I couldn't fix it and whatever. So I went to House, and it was when they were starting the free websites. I have I load all my pictures into my House profile, and it automatically populates and puts it into a gallery. It's free. I don't have to have a lot of copy on it. I can just say basically who I am, what my prices are, what I do, and here's some pictures so I can show you exactly what I do, and it's free, and it's designed for people who and the format's designed for people who are like us, who work with homes and work in design, and so they're very easy templates, and you really have to do so little, and it's free. So even if you just do that, you'll be away to the races, and that's all you have to do is direct people to your House site. And I think actually that's a really good suggestion, Ellen, is to do a webinar on House. Maybe I'll try doing that. I could do that. Not me directly telling you about House, but I could get someone to talk about House for sure. Because it is, in fact, someone told me recently, where did I read recently about something to do with having a webinar on House? I'll see what I can find. Because you do want House to really work for your benefit, because you can pay for it, but I don't know that you need to. Like, I think it was very area specific about House. But for sure, the free website, it's so easy, and it gets you up there without having to spend and invest a lot of money in getting your website done. But more important to me is that it gets you up there so that you can get out and do what you need to do, which is to find paying clients. Because you're not going to be a successful staging business, if you do not have clients who are going to pay you. So that is really, really critical. So as I said, it's just don't spend a crazy amount of time waiting for your logo to be done, waiting for your copy, waiting for your website. Just go to some of those free resources. Just remember that the most important thing is you put your picture on it, have your pictures done nicely, use your professional photos if you can, pay for someone to do some professional photos for you of your property, even if it's just your house that you have staged, and get someone to come in. My friend who's the photographer came in and shot, no, I can't, I'm just trying to think if I have anything off the top of my head. Because I have, let me just see here for a second. I can't see what I have pictures. Where are they? I've seen them recently. I have pictures that I had taken in my very first few months of business that are pictures of a few of my accessories together, and a couple of pictures of me. And I still use those, and they don't say anything about my staging, but they say everything about my style and everything about my brand. And people just need to know that. So, that's a good idea, actually, Holly. I haven't looked recently, but yes, House probably has the free webinars that you can see. I think they're trying to really ramp up their value for sure. So definitely don't spend a crazy amount of time. You do have to continue to work on it in the background, but don't let it stop you from finding and paying clients, which is what you need. And as I said, you're the brand. And having that profile of what your ideal client is like will really help you as well, because that will help you to be a bit more focused in who you're going to meet and the kind of networking events that you have as well. The other thing that is also very important is to really, and I feel really critical, because when we talk about being proactive and not reactive, part of being proactive means that so you have your action plan and you know what networking events you're going to go to this week, and then therefore you know some of the things that you need. One of the things that really will help you to really fill up that action plan, because you really need to have like a plan for your year of where you're going to go. When you're training, I don't know if everybody has created business plans for your business when you were doing your training, but I know it's very easy to look at your business plan. And I have been guilty of this, of looking at your business plan as something that you pull out every 6 months or 8 months and you check, and sometimes you might, it's just a guide. Like, it just tells you, did I end up where I thought I was going to end up? A lot of us don't ever really look at it again. And that's if we've done them, because most people don't ever even do one. Now, I really truly believe that having a plan for your success is what will make you successful in your business, because it prevents you from being reactive and it makes you proactive, and it creates goals for you that you can look towards for the whole year that are going to help you to achieve your goals. I mean, none of us got in this business or any business because we just thought, hey, it'd be fun. I wanted to go and spend some money on making someone else some money. I don't really need to make any money. None of us really do that. Really, deep in our hearts, ever do that. We all want to be successful. We all have this dream. And if you were like really honest with yourself and you put that on paper, what is that dream, that big picture that you have idea of what having a business is going to be for you? And sometimes it's got nothing to do with financial success. Sometimes it's got everything to do with being in control of your own life, being able to pick up your kids at school at 3:00 in the afternoon, being able to pick and choose who you work with, being able to do something that you love, being able to be paid for something that you love. But none of that can happen unless you are, unfortunately, we live in an era when we all have to work. But none of that will happen if we don't make enough money to pay for all that, and to pay for our business to run. And so one of the things I think is very important in your first year of business, and even though it's a bit of a challenge to figure it out, is to know what your business costs you, so that you can make sure that every job that you do, that you are paying, that you can actually pay to run your business and make a profit. Now, it's harder to do that, obviously, in the first year or 18 months or even 2 years, and for some of us, depending on our business model, even 3 years, because we know that we are investing back in the business all the time. But imagine if you weren't making enough money to even reinvest back in the business. And that's what you want to make sure that you're doing, that you are creating a business that is going to be sustainable, that you're going to be successful at, because you actually know how much money you need to make and how much money you dream of making. There was, I've talked about this a few times lately, but there was most definitely a time, like when I started my business in 2010, where I don't think we really thought about making money. And I don't think that we thought about making money, and I don't think we thought about making lots of money. And I think we just thought about decorating and staging and having a really good time at it. And of course, we'd make a living, we'd have a business. And I will admit that I had like sort of outlandish ideas of what that meant. They weren't realistic because I never set them down on paper. They were just kind of like in my head. But if you put those ideas down on paper and you decide, you know what, I want to make, in my first year of business, $60,000. And that's gross. I want $60,000 gross in my first year of business. And then in my second year of business, I want it to be $150,000. So double plus. And that's what I expect in my second year of business. And you have that as a plan. Then let's say in your first year of business, you can work backwards from 60,000 and say, okay, so if I know my end goal is 60,000, and I know that my average job, an average staging job, now everybody's going to be a bit different because your overheads are going to be different, and your market's a bit different, and your expertise and your value, the way you perceive your value, might be a bit different too. But let's say on average, every job. Okay, let's say, for example, you're going to focus on vacant staging. That's your baby. And every vacant staging job costs you, or shouldn't say that, brings in you revenues of $3,500 or $4,000. So if you look over $60,000, then how many $4,000 jobs do you need to make $60,000? So you're going to need, how many is that? I'm so bad at this. 15, right? So 15 jobs over the year. So that's less than one job a year, one job a month. So if you targeted 1.5 jobs a month, or one job a month, or 2 jobs a month, whatever you decide, it's always good to go up. So you said 2 jobs a month, and you knew that you'd plan to have 2 vacant staging jobs a month, full house jobs. Now you know that you have a target, and you know that you have to find enough agents to get you those 15 jobs. And you don't typically need to have like just one agent that's going to do that. You're going to want to have a few agents that are going to do that. But you don't need your 6 to 10 or your 30. You can be building those relationships, but you really want to target the right people. So this is where your ideal client really plays a role as well, knowing exactly who you want to target, and that you're going to target them with vacant staging, with the service of vacant staging. So you're going to be selective about agents who you target, because you need ones that you need the agent who does vacant staging. So it's going to help you to plan who you're going to market to, and who you're going to you need to meet through your networking. So that'll kind of help you shape your networking event, your network planning, and your action plan. It's going to shape how many, like how much inventory you want to invest in. So if you write up at front, know how much money you want to invest in your business, or you can figure that out by the fact that you want to make 60,000, you want to do vacant homes, so therefore you're going to need to invest a certain amount of money in order to be able to stage those homes. And so it's going to shape your plan for the whole year. So you know every month that you have to aggressively, I'm going to say aggressively market or network with agents who are going to bring you that work. And so therefore that helps you to decide it has to be this group of people that I'm going to network and market towards. Not just anybody and everybody and all 45,000 agents in my area. It's these agents who I'm going to market to, because these are the ones who pay for staging, who have vacant properties, who work with contractors, who work with builders, etc. So you're going to fine tune that. So having that plan for the year, like knowing, just all you need to know is like what you wanted, what revenues you want to have by the end of the year, and then work backwards. And so you're going to reverse engineer your numbers so that you know exactly what you're working towards, instead of being reactive and waiting for people to come to you. You know, nobody's called me. I sent out a brochure. And think about the fact that if you, and actually you can be very strategic with this. So you think about like a couple of brokerages that you're really keen to work with. You know, your love is to work with vacant properties, and you know that these couple of brokerages, they have a lot of realtors who are top realtors who work at vacant properties, who do flips and work. And because you've done your research, because you've gone to open houses and you've seen and you paid attention to who the flipping market. Now you don't have to do that specifically. I'm just giving it as an example. And so you're going to target those couple of brokerages. You're going to want to do lunch and learns in them. You're going to want to find out who they are, those agents are, and you're going to want to take them out for coffee and to be where they are, and be at events that they might be at. And maybe they're big BNI people, so you're going to go to the BNI events. And maybe they're part of the municipality or the business association, so you're going to be there as well. So that having that end goal of how much revenues you want to make, and then being able to work backwards and help you to shape a plan. And it doesn't have to get really specific, but obviously the more specific you are, the better focused you are. And so instead of waking up on Monday morning and feeling like, oh, what am I going to do this week? I still haven't got a job, and I need to get out there. Then you have a plan. And even if your plan doesn't necessarily result in a job this week, you have a plan that is going to lead you to $60,000 in revenue this year, because you're being strategic about it, that you're planning forward for it, and you know what you need to do. Like I would just give you a quick example about like me selling courses. I know that industry stats say that you could have, out of 100 people, you're probably going to sell, you have good numbers if you sell to 2 people, if you sell a program to 2 people out of 100. So that means if I want to have 10, I want to sell 10 courses in this quarter, then I need to have at that, no, how many is it? 2,000 people that I am like marketing to. That means that if my numbers are only 1,000, I have to increase the number of people that are on my list. That's why you always hear from me. And why I have to increase those number of people so that the odds are that I will make the amount that I'll sell the amount of courses that I need to. And the same goes with everything else. It hands down with sales. What do you think realtors do? They do exactly the same thing. They know what the odds are that they should get. I think it's 5 listing appointments for every 100 calls they make, and then out of those 5 listing appointments, they should be able to get two listings, and that's how they operate. That's why they're calling all the time. So if you ever talk to a realtor, why they're always calling, that's what they're doing. They're making the odds better for them to be successful, and it's hard work, but it is what happens when you start any business. We'd love it. I mean, there's a few stagers who have been so fortunate, who had good relationships before, who worked hard at those relationships and nurturing them, and they turned into really fruitful relationships in staging, in their business, and started them on the right path right away. And but that's not the norm. It's certainly, like, if you have one realtor, a couple of realtors that help you and encourage you to get into the business, that is wonderful and amazing, but they're not always the one. Exactly, pump up the pipeline. It's not always those people who are going to give you the tons of business. They want you to be a stager because they could use you, but when you know that the average number of homes that realtors sell, I think is 4 in a year, or not even sell. The average number of transactions in a year for a realtor is between 3 and 4. Is that right? Yeah, between 3 and 4 in a year. That doesn't mean that they're all selling all 3 or 4 of those were selling houses. It means that they could have been selling or they could have been buying. So they don't need you all the time. So it's wonderful if realtors want you to get in the business, but they're not always as busy and we think that they're going to be knocking down our door. And another thing I would add to that too is that when they might love you and they might have had coffee with you and thought you were amazing and really like pumped you up, but it doesn't mean they have a house to sell. It doesn't mean that their house needs a staging right now. So that's why you have to keep up, as Denise says, pumping up that pipeline. You have to keep those relationships going. You have to keep talking to them, that's 10 to 14 times, because they're going to make the decision about hiring you, not the seller. The seller wants you because you have, yes, Lorraine, it is recorded and it's always, they're all available. All the videos are available in the video section. The seller's going to hire you because their agent loves you, and your agent has pumped you up, and that's why they are going to hire. Well, that's not always, but that is typically a big reason why when you market to realtors, you're forming a relationship with them that then leads into a relationship with their sellers. So those relationships with agents are really critical and really important for you to keep on nurturing those relationships. I think that's the last of my ones. Now, I'm just going to answer one question that was completely and if anyone has any questions, please ask or comments. But I'm going to answer one. So Candace is one of my graduates from the Successful Stager program, and she's had a really successful couple of weeks. She's just finished the program, and and I will say, Candace is from Toronto, but in the process of through the 12-week program, she moved out to she's not on the call, but maybe she'll hear this. She moved out to a smaller community outside of Toronto, a good 2-hour drive out of Toronto. And it's not necessarily a haven for staging, but she had an opportunity to be in a home show, and that seems to have really worked out for her. And she already has a potentially, she's put in a quote on a vacant staging job, and hopefully is going to be doing that. So, and that was a result of the home show. I will say those are all great marketing things to do when you're starting your business. You just need to know exactly why you're doing it, what your objective is when you do it. Okay, so there's some planning that goes into doing those things. But what she was asking me this morning about price, she was asking me a question about pricing. I thought I answered here about charging for rentals and what happens when you charge for rentals and what kind of percentage you should be charging. So if you have your own rentals, what you want to do is take that cost that you invested in the rental item, the item. So let's say you bought a chair for $100 and you're going to now rent it out. You're going to rent it out at 20% of what the retail cost of the chair was. If you bought a chair wholesale, or if you bought it at Home Goods or Home Sense, and it was $100, but actually it was really $200 if you paid retail price for it, what you want to do is base your rental cost on the retail price. So it would be 20% of $200, so $40 for that chair a month. And regardless of how you get the chair, you're going to bill HST or taxes on top, any sales taxes on top of that. Don't ever include sales tax in your price, because it's a false impression of what your value is. Because if people could think you're like in Sweden and Denmark, I think it is, the sales taxes are like well into like 26% or something insane. So can you imagine adding a quarter of your price on, like say it's a $3,000 job, and taking it up to almost $4,000 because you add 25% on that? It's like, that's crazy. So it doesn't represent your value in the way you should. So don't ever include tax in the price. Always include it above, and which is fair. And always charge tax if you are collecting tax. You've got to charge tax. Don't try to do under the table deals, because you'll just get yourself confused and in trouble, and a reputation that you don't really want to have about that you'll negotiate on that, which is not fair. I know one stager, and she's not on here, but one stager this week who told me she did that, and she felt so guilty that she in turn took the sales tax and paid it anyway. And so she lost money on the job. So that's not good. So anyway, there's my phone. Hang on, sorry about that. My phone rang in the middle. That was not quite what I was anticipating. And anyway, so make sure that you're charging the sales tax. And what was the other question? Oh yeah, so she was asking about, do I charge sales tax on something I've rented from someone else? And the answer is no, you don't do that. So bill that separately. Put it into you're going to how do I put this? You're going to pay sales tax on that. So you're not going to turn around and bill the client for sales tax again. So you're going to pay sales tax. So if you can do two things with when you have rentals from another company. You can either have the client pay directly for those. Am I back now? Hopefully I'm back. It was my phone rang, Nancy, and it for some reason it cut me off. I don't know why it did that, but anyway. So just make sure that you're not. Oh, sorry. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you were going to bill a client for rentals that you are getting from somebody else, you can do two things. You can have them either include it and bill them totally, or you take it from the or you go through. Hopefully, it's come back. Or you go and you have the client pay directly. Okay, so let me just get rid of that, and that will help you as well. All right, and hi Maria, I haven't seen you in ages. So anyway, what else? Oh, and when I taught Maria, I was so sick. Oh, I remember that. It was so awful. I really should have been at home. I was so sick when I taught you. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But okay, sorry about that, Juliana. You know what happened? My phone rang and at the same time, and I couldn't get it off the screen. So it was kind of painful. So I guess it pauses it if the phone rings, which is a pain in the butt. But anyway, so make sure that you have two options when you're billing your client for rentals that you get from someone else. You can either bill them directly and have them pay the client directly, the rental company directly, or you can bill them and be responsible for payment to the rental company, which you've already done. Okay, so basically, you don't want to have them pay double for the taxes. You just want to make sure that you collect money that you should, so that you can pay the client. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. And that's Candace. Anyone else have any questions? We've been on an hour, and I know that that first year of business can be really a challenge, and you're worrying about where the next dollar is coming from, and are you doing it right? I think is a lot of the question that we have from stagers about, are we doing it right? Is this really what it's supposed to be all about? It's not supposed to be about struggling, but anybody that's new in a business, it can't help be that, because you're going, not struggling so much, but you're going through a big, gigantic learning curve. And that learning curve means that you are learning about who you're selling to, you're learning about running your business, you're learning about marketing to them and about selling to them. So there's a big, big learning curve in there. So cut yourself some slack, but have a plan and really try and do a plan. So Penny, you're asking for pricing. Do you include every accessory? I like to do my rentals or my accessories in packages. So I found the easiest way to price was to package things up. And so in a living room, in each room, I roughly know how many accessories I'm going to do and what the value is. And so I kind of do it by a room. You could also do it by bin, and you know that how much value is in your bin on the most part. And you can say in a 4-bedroom house, I'm going to use like 4 bins, and it's like $150 a bin. That's just a guess. Don't use that number, but you can say that. And but I find honestly, Penny, that you don't need to get yourself into nickel and diming, and the value that you bring to your client is not about the inventory that you're bringing to them. What you need to make sure is if you're getting inventory from another source, that's paid for. But if you are putting an inventory from your own inventory into a property, it's the overall value that actually really brings, that is important to the the cost. It's not always the individual items that you bring. Like I know some stagers will refund if they bring in things or they return things and don't use them. Not return, I should say. Bring things back to their inventory, to their warehouse that they don't use, and so they'll refund their client. I don't think you need to do that. I think that you're selling your overall value of marketing their property. And if you decided that the best way to market the property was not to use that extra picture, then that's what the value of your staging is. It doesn't include. And it might also include that extra picture. But using the 20% just helps you to really round out so that you're as close to accurate as possible. But it's a lot of effort to try and do each item on its own. And it's not always, it's not about the nickel and diming. It's not about the individuals, but the big greater value that you bring to a client when you stage. And you'll see that I guarantee you that the stagers who you see in your world who are really successful, who make lots of money, they don't do that. They are not looking at nickel and diming on every piece of inventory that they put into a property. They are looking at the overall value that they bring to the property. Okay. Now, I will say, just in case anybody misinterprets that doesn't mean that you take I don't agree with taking a percentage of a house. Like if you you can use it as an estimate, and I usually do it on the 1%, because if you say 1% of the sale price, 1% means the staging, 3% means the overall investment in getting your house ready to sell. So that 1% means that it's a gauge. But if you look at a house, like I watch, what's that one in the southern states with Chip and Joanna Gaines. Okay, so they have houses that are like $180,000, big houses that are $180,000. In my market, they have teeny houses that are $800,000. So if I said that a 900 or 1,000 square foot house, and the budget was from a $900,000 house would be $9,000 to stage a 900 square foot house, that's insane. But if I were to do it do the same thing for a $180,000 house or a $200,000 house, and it was 4,000 square feet, and so then I only had like $2,000 to stage 4,000 square feet. That's bonkers. So I think it's not a very safe way to do it. I think every house needs to be priced separately because there's different needs, and then it's not about the overall. It's not about getting the most amount of money, like based on the sale price of the house. Like you could do that locally, but don't do it at 1%. Do it at the percentage that's appropriate for your properties. Okay, Anna. So 1% is it's an estimate, but it's not going to work every time. And as I said, you need to pick a percentage that really works for your area if you're going to work that way. But I personally think that like not every house needs it and needs everything done. They might just need not a couple of rooms, but like some houses need the whole thing done. Some houses only needs occasional piece of furniture. Some houses just need the main floor done. So like it's going to be different all the way around. So anyway, there's my answer for that. Any other questions? All right. Okay. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to do something next week, but I don't think it's going to be very long because I'm actually going to be in California visiting my mom who's really quite sick. And so I'm probably going to do it from her beautiful sunny garden, and I'll just do a little bit there, but I won't get too much into detail. But all right, okay. So have a lovely week. We're getting into spring. Things are good. The market's hot, and here's my task for you this week. Find 3 ways that you can network with other entrepreneurs and agents, and how you can do and figure out and pick an agent that you can do a one-on-one with. Take them out for coffee for 20 minutes. And ask them how you can help them, and so I challenge you to do that. Those 3 things, okay? So and I'll check in on you during the week and see how you're doing. And if anybody needs help on how to do that, I think Anna, you said that it's uncomfortable talking to people, so maybe I'll do something else. Maybe that's what I'll do, and I'll do an extra live on communicating with people that you don't know and trying to sell yourself and your value. Okay? So have a wonderful weekend, guys, and good luck. And I can't wait to see how you network over the next week and start setting up a plan to really, truly help you. I know it sounds kind of airy, like it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But truly, if you set yourself up a plan and you know exactly what you're doing for the year and what your goals are, and I'm not that kind of person, but it really does work. Okay? So have a wonderful weekend, guys. Bye. Thanks for showing up.